Morning, Mr. Chairman.
Morning, Senator.
Just so you know, I have voting in JPR at 10 p.m. 10 a.m. It'll probably run until 10 p.m. I'm sorry, but it begins at 10 a.m. So
yeah, we will not be. We've got to be on the floor at 10 as well. So we're not.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Quick as we
Morning.
can.
Morning.
I'm going to leave at halftime to go to Prince George's. We're both the same today.
Me too.
Yeah.
Enough to get started. Let me know, Joy. We started.
Yes, we've started.
Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, welcome Southern Maryland delegation. Lots today, so we need to get moving. First is University System of Maryland's Southern Maryland update.
Yeah, give me a second. We're getting a back.
Joy, what? Joy, are you supposed to be muted?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to mute it. I've got a back thing that I'm trying to get rid of.
You're the only one who has it. Does anybody else, can everybody else hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Matt, you
Yeah.
look
Hey, Joy, it sounds like someone else is watching on YouTube.
Yes, it
They have
is.
a live connection because
Yes,
there is
I'm
an
getting
echo
ready to
back
get
and
rid of
forth. So maybe everyone should just mute. And if you're doing YouTube link, make sure you turn it off.
No, not everybody's muted.
Yeah, I'm trying to see where my connection is. If I have it running in the background,
Well,
and I
maybe
don't
you
see
then
it.
Joy, just mute yourself. And then nobody
Okay.
can hear you.
Okay.
All right, colleagues, apologize, these technical difficulties. I want to start out, we have Joe Anderson, Dr. Abel, Matt Cicero, Mr. Breiber, George Herbert. Is that correct?
George isn't with us this
I
morning.
believe we have Patrick Hogan as well.
Right.
There it is. So whoever you guys want to go, how you guys want to go first, how you want to do it, just let me know. Go ahead and take
Okay.
your time.
I'll kick it off, Chairman.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Chairman Wilson, senators, delegates. I'm Joe Anderson. I'm president of the Board of Advisors for the University System of Southern Maryland at Southern Maryland. And I want to thank you for giving us an opportunity to bring you up to speed on the great progress that we've made since our merger just about 3 years ago. Today we have with us Dr. Eileen Abel, who's our new executive director, came on board the 1st of December and has really hit the ground running. Matt Scasero, who is the director for the University of Maryland UAS test site, located just a couple hundred yards from our building. And we have Dr. Rob Breiber, who's the interim dean for the Clark School of Engineering. And it's his job to try to keep us all together and in one place and moving forward. So without further ado, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Dr. Abel, and she'll provide us with an update on where we are at the center. Thank you.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to talk about some exciting opportunities in Southern Maryland. I can't help but believe that we are poised for something really big. So with the oldest of the regional higher ed centers coming under the auspices of the University System of Maryland, the newly envisioned center in Southern Maryland is establishing a unique model of education and research to grow an engaged, experienced, and skilled workforce, and to be a catalyst for economic development in the region. So there's a gap in Southern Maryland between the education we have and the education we need, measured at about 12%. What that means is that the Southern Maryland region has a bachelor's completion rate of 18%, but 30% of the jobs in the region require a bachelor's degree. It's no surprise that most of these jobs are in high-tech fields, but we also anticipate growth over the next decade in those supporting infrastructure jobs like education, healthcare, and business. So the top 25 jobs that require bachelor's degrees over the next decade are going to grow anywhere from 10 to 48% in occupational demand. And if we ever had a reason for being, it's that growth in demand and it's that educational gap. And the USMSM is poised to meet that demand. So we have a population that needs access to education and a jobs outlook that is nothing short of rosy. So the USMSM will be at the forefront of meeting these educational demands and plan to provide work-based opportunities to create a ready and more highly skilled workforce. Our explicit goal is to serve the region and to expand opportunities for underserved students. And we're working with our school districts, our university partners, and the College of Southern Maryland to ensure that there are both pathways and pipelines. But as exciting as that expanded mission is, equally compelling is that USMSM is also going to be the hub of the envisioned Innovation District and a linchpin of the Autonomous Systems Corridor for Southern Maryland. Pax River Naval Air Station is one of the country's leading centers for unmanned aircraft development and testing. But as you know, access behind the gate is limited. So you can see right in front of you the construction, and this was taken in October, and we're much farther ahead now. But the Southern Maryland Autonomous Research and Technology Building, also known as the SMART Building, which is what you have right in front of you, is going to be a destination where the high bay space and the water tank, the location right across from the airport, and its affiliation with Techport and the UAS test site, all of these will allow systems to be tested on land, underwater, and in the air. So think about its proximity to PAX, Indian Head, College Park, DC, Baltimore, Aberdeen, and Annapolis. This means that researchers and policymakers will be able to work on the development, coordination, and deployment of UAS systems and policies in all three realms. So the USMSM will be at the nexus of research and innovation and of education and employment in Southern Maryland. And to talk a little bit more about the research and education option, I'm going to pass my mic to Dr. Rob Breiber, the interim dean of the College School of Engineering at College Park. Rob?
Thank you, Eileen. It's a pleasure to be here this morning to talk to everyone. So I'm the interim dean, as was noted. I've been in this job almost a year from when President Pines, or then Dean Pines, stepped up to be president of the University of Maryland. I've been engaging with Eileen regularly and with Matt Scassero at the USA test site. We're in the Clark School here, we're incredibly excited about the new SMART building under construction at Southern Maryland. And we're expanding our partnership with USMSM on enhancing and growing our education and research programs down there. We're committed to leveraging this new research space to interact with local constituents and provide exciting state-of-the-art facilities to our students in our undergraduate education programs that are housed down there and connected directly to the Clark School in College Park in both mechanical engineering and electrical engineering. We envision this as being a tremendous opportunity to recruit new students into the programs and provide them with exciting opportunities to work and learn in a state-of-the-art advanced lab. We're also looking forward to partnering with the UAS test site and expanding our interactions with the Naval Base, with Indian Head, Techport, the Innovation District, and local companies, and providing them with a direct connection to expertise from the Clark School in engineering. We're also actually discussing with partners further away some companies that we have close relationships with at the Clark School, like Lockheed Martin, and other government agencies like the Army Research Lab. And they're excited about learning more about the facilities in Southern Maryland. I've also had regular discussions with President Pines about our interactions with USMSM. He still has a lot of interest in making sure we're successful in our partnerships. And I'm joining Eileen on regular discussions with the system as well on planning and keeping things moving. I think it's a very exciting time in Southern Maryland, and the Clark School is completely on board with this endeavor, and we're looking forward to great things to come. So thank you.
And as you've heard, the new campus at USMSM, both on the education and on the research side, will support us taking the next step to tying everything we have going on at the St. Mary's County Airport and in the region together into a true innovation district. And as cool as the technology and the research is, and drones are just obviously cool, I want to tell you about the impacts that your investment in Southern Maryland have been making since 2012. There we go. Since 2015, 30 interns have gone through the UAS test site. They've come from University of Maryland, the College of Southern Maryland, USMSM, and St. Mary's College of Maryland. Each one of these interns has had their own personal research project that they've accomplished with a PhD mentor. All of these interns have had good, solid jobs waiting for them on graduation. Several of these interns that came from outside the Southern Maryland area liked so much what they saw in the base and in the area that they have stayed in the area. And many of our interns continue to call back to us for technical assistance in their careers that are in now. One of these that are shown in the center there, we liked so much. After 3 years of interning with us, we hired him. Josh Gauss then became an integration engineer and pilot on a project that just keeps on giving. In Baltimore in 2019, we flew the first human organ to a waiting patient. It made a real difference in Trina Gillespie's life, and she was an eager participant in changing the way organ transplants are looked at. We've won several awards for this, bringing attention to what we have going on in Maryland and drawing the connecting line between research and impact on humanity. The latest award, announced this week publicly, was the Helicopter Association International Golden Hour Award. And it was the first time in 50 years of giving this award that they awarded it to a UAS organization, vice a helicopter organization, which was huge. Since the event happened, the video and media hits have literally spread around the world. We've been on Russian radio, Portuguese, the top TV show on science in Brazil, and just last couple of weeks on Japan's leading entertainment network. And I have to admit, I sound pretty good dubbed in Portuguese. Our next big step is the Chesapeake UAS Route Network. Many of you have been briefed on this project, and we just completed a really inspiring feasibility study that gave us the green light to go after this game-changing airspace integration project. This on-demand, integrated vice segregated airspace network will be available for commercial and public use, as well as government and academic research. And it will highlight the technologies and procedures needed to handle these unique capabilities in the future. So from hurricane disaster recovery flights to changing organ transportation modalities and the future of air transportation, the University of Maryland, University System of Maryland at Southern Maryland, and local research will be on the cutting edge of doing good for humanity. We thank you for your time and engagement, and we're now open for any questions you may have.
Anyone have any questions? No? Well, guys, thank you very much for your presentation. I appreciate the effort you guys are putting into Southern Maryland and growing. Look forward to meeting with you guys at another time. Once we get out of session, I think everybody's minds will be a little clearer and open. And Pat, nice seeing you as always. The beard looks, it makes you look at least older than 12, so that's good.
Appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. Good to see you as well.
So look, and reach out to me, buddy, so we can talk about this more, okay?
Sounds good. Will do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Take care, guys.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, delegation. Much appreciated.
All right, colleagues, we're now going to jump into the other exciting part of our day, which is going to be discussing House Bill 655. We have sets of commissioners. I guess, and I see on the list is Commissioner President Collins, Commissioner Stewart, Bowling, and Rucci, and then from St. Mary's, Commissioners Guy and Colvin. In Calvert, we have Commissioner Weems. Is there anybody that we've, Joy, is there anybody that I've missed?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, I guess what we wanted to do, the reason I called this meeting is not to create a drama within the Southern Maryland delegation, but because this is a live bill, and while it's a House bill that has passed the House, it still has not passed the Senate. We have 3 senators sitting, and I know that as things coalesced, you know, these commissions, all 3 of the commissioners have decided that they did not support this bill. So I wanted them to briefly just discuss with us their issues with the bill and open themselves up for questions, as well as I guess we could open ourselves up as well. So let's do this in march order. We'll start with Commissioner Steve Weems. Steve, there you go, bud.
Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you.
In essence, our opposition is going to be more so just the fact that it does not put into any consideration the current process, and we are in essence comfortable with it, and we would like it to the status quo to be maintained.
Okay. And I would just ask, I guess we'll move through everyone and then we'll come back and open up for questions. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Weems. Next we have Commissioners Randy Guy and Eric Coleman. Who would ever like to go? Randy, do you want to go first?
Thank you, Delegate Wilson. I'll go next. This is Commissioner President Randy Guy.
Okay.
Now, I've already given a not only written testimony, but also to your committee before I went into the floor, my verbal. So I'm going to sort of hit some highlights on that again. And I feel that this should have been somehow handled as a referendum, if that was so, and let the people of St. Mary's County make the choice for how they want to handle elections. This was totally outside the norm. We tried several years ago, the last election, for those of you who remember, to do code home rule. The people voted and said no, it was defeated. And I fully accept the will of the people. And this is totally outside the will of the people. Somebody should have sat there and said, no, let's put this on a referendum, let the people make a decision. That's what we do. And this is just totally unnecessary. Commissioner Todd Morgan, the last two elections ran unopposed. And this is key around his district, District 4, that's the problem. Or at least that they say there's a problem. I don't know if it's one or not. They say it is. I don't know. So, for Mr. Crosby to say this is democracy and we should be doing this differently, and he threw all kinds of things at us about what we're not doing right. And I'm sorry, I think he's wrong. And this should have never, ever been put before the delegation, and should have never been put everybody on the, you might say, the edge. This should have been handled properly through a referendum by the people and voted in the next election. And I hope the Senate somehow can work to defeat it. This is unnecessary. I believe the people are smart enough in this county, believe me, one of the highest educated counties in the state, can make their decision on how we should handle a voting. Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you. Mr. Eric Coleman.
Yes, thank you. Just thank you all for an opportunity to talk with you all. Randy covered a lot of the high points from St. Mary's County's perspective. Just my own personal thoughts on this. I'm opposed to this also. I'm a first-term commissioner, and I know that many of you have served in local government at the county level before, so you understand the limited resources. We're going through our budget process right now like everyone else is, and just the struggle it is where there's only so much of the pie to go around. In my mind, this bill makes it worse for the county. And I think it comes down to a fundamental misunderstanding of how our elections are set up. Right now, they're set up where we are voted by district for 4 commissioners in St. Mary's County. I know it's different in some of the other counties, but that's to provide geographical representation. But if we were to change where only the district votes, it takes away that element of looking at the entire county as a whole. Now, that's the way I came into the job. If I'm reelected to this position, that's what I will continue to look at the job with the county as a whole, because we're a small enough area. And the comparison has been made a lot to, well, we don't have Montgomery County voting for our state delegates. We don't have Garrett County voting for our state senators in Southern Maryland. And I understand that, but the state and at a national level, it's a much bigger area. When we talk about the counties, it's at a smaller area. We need the entire county to be focused on the county. Now, honestly, my fear is that down the road, if this happens, it will turn the commissioners into more of a competition for resources for their individual districts. And in effect, it will end up hurting the minority districts more because they will have less representation in a 5 board of commissioners. This is just hypothetical. I don't know what would happen, but there's a real chance that areas that are getting more resources would end up getting less resources in the long run. So thank you all for the chance to talk with you today. That's all from me.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, next we're gonna go to our Charles County Commissioners. We have 4 of them. Start with Commissioner Collins.
Good morning, everyone. The Board of County Commissioners last week voted 4-1 in opposition to HB 655. Now, what needs to be made very clear is there are absolute nuances as to why the Board of Commissioners took that position. At the end of the day, I don't think there's anyone on our board that is opposed to the concept of one man, one vote, which was argued as an essential element to this particular bill. What was presented, and this is what I wanted to spend a moment to actually address, was the fact that this was a civil rights bill. And that's why I wanted to share as an individual board member where my concerns lie. Many of you, because it was actually read on the floor, a letter that I sent to the media, and it detailed my history associated with, this very issue, dating back to the early 2000s. Most specifically, in between 1998 and 2002, African-American candidates ran for the Board of County Commissioner in Charles County. One individual in particular ran in District 3, and with the structure of our voting at that time, we had a residential requirement. But it wasn't actual district voting. But if you ran under the residency requirements. And the commissioner who was running in District 3 in 1998 and in 2002 actually won the District 3 election, but he did not win at large, if you can understand what I'm saying. And so as a result of that, at that time, I was an attorney for the Charles County NAACP. And what we looked at was whether our at-large voting was in violation of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. And this is a very important point that I want all of you to understand, and why I, in particular, had some exceptions with this bill. The county went through its NAACP and in partnership with the ACLU. We went through a very comprehensive analysis looking at the overall voting patterns in Charles County. Working in partnership with the ACLU, the conclusion was, because Charles County didn't have actually contiguous voting areas that you could argue were exclusively minority population areas, the county could not sue under the Voting Rights Act based on Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And so and this is, again, in partnership with the ACLU. And so what happened after that point, it was really just a change in demographics in the county. So at the end of the day, the whole issue of minority representation and whether our at-large system was in violation of the Voting Rights Act, it became a moot point. And so the county progressed beyond that. But the exception that I have was based on, the actual elements of the Voting Rights Act, and my impression that I believe the intent of the authors of this bill, they were trying to address this as a civil rights matter. But at the end of the day, is there any evidence? I don't know the demographics of St. Mary's and Calvert County. Was any type of analysis done to determine whether there are actual contiguous districts within these jurisdictions? I think that's a critical question. because I have not heard on any of the floor discussions, any discussion under the Voting Rights Act. And so I'm not, and please forgive me, I didn't mean to go this long. CT, I'm a lawyer. When I get started, so I'm gonna shut down.
No,
But,
to briefly answer your question, this bill's not called the Civil Rights Voting Act.
I know that, but
So
I'm
that's
saying it was implied. Within,
the language of the bill has nothing to do with the Civil Rights Voting Act. The language of the bill is basically, and my argument on the floor was the same as it would be now, is if there are Republicans down in southern Charles County, and that's the vast majority of people in that district, and they're white Republicans, don't they deserve a vote? It was more about, are we going to represent, it's about power or people, meaning do we as now Black Democrats say, no, now that we've got the power, we don't want to give it up. Now it's not fair. When white people had it, we're like, come on, you got to give us something. It was never the argument about civil rights. It was about the one man, one vote, as we talked. And are we fighting this because we don't want to give up the power that we now have? Because 20 years ago, it was important that we do this, but now it's not. Now it's no longer an issue because now Black people have a voice. Well, the goal for this country isn't that just Black people have a voice, it's that all people have a voice. So this is in direct juxtaposition to the St. Mary's argument of, well, the African Americans, the argument was the district that they have, if they were just voting that district, would probably have an African American representation, meaning white males or white Republicans may lose a seat. Well, in Charles County, it's Black people may lose a seat. And the question I would have for you, Commissioner, is that a problem? If African Americans lose a seat because the individuals in southern Charles County are white Republicans and they want their voice to be heard?
My response is, from the very beginning, I have been an advocate for actual district voting. So, the record is very clear where I come from. I've always been one that follows the basic concept of one man, one vote. You also know on 2 occasions prior, during the 2010 term, I was an advocate for moving our county towards charter government. At the beginning of this term, I brought it before the board. There was not enough votes to move forward with charter. And so there was never an actual floor vote coming from a board of commissioners. So responding to your question, I've always been an advocate for one person, one vote. But I've made clear with the previous comments that I made what my concerns were with this bill. Because at the end of the day, that should be a question, addressed by the citizens of Charles County. In terms of, establishing, not at large, but district voting, which I am an absolute advocate for. The record is clear.
All right, well, I'll say your letter wasn't but I just want to make sure this is not a civil rights move. There may be arguments used to support it, but that's not the rationale for many people voting for it. I know we have three other commissioners. Amanda?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Delegate Wilson. Thank you, everyone, delegation, senators. Just want to take a moment to briefly tell you a couple points of why I oppose House Bill 655. As Commissioner Collins already stated, we did discuss this in session previously. One of the things that I fundamentally believe is that this change in form of government, or how you vote for your elected body, should be put forth in a referendum. And the people of the county or counties should have a right to decide how they want to elect their people. So that's number one. Number two, I do believe that our county size is small enough where there is a benefit where when our elected body is put into office, we have the opportunity to work for the county as a whole. And so as a resident of Charles County, I really wouldn't want to see a county of this size where commissioners are working against each other to bring funding to their district. I think it's a benefit for us all to work together as a whole. And so in the end, in conclusion, Delegate Wilson, I would just ask for consideration and just to share that it would have been, I believe, the appropriate process is to bring this forward in a referendum and let the people decide how they want to elect their body of elected officials. So again, thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you. Next is Bobby Rucci. Bobby, you there? Joy, is Bobby there?
No, he could have been the person that was just had
All right, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Okay, the next.
Also
BJ
someone.
Bowie.
Okay.
Go ahead, BJ.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Mr. Chairman, senators, and delegates. So as Commissioner President stated, there was a 4-1 vote on this bill, and I was the dissenting vote. Just to give you perspective from Charles County, of all the numbers and data that was pulled, I believe by Delegate Crosby's office in our county, each commissioner was overwhelmingly elected to office. The closest race was actually mine, district, when it came to district-wide, just for the district. And it was, I think, about 300 votes. So I think that I stand behind my delegation on this bill. I said it when we met in the commissioner meeting. If I can't win my district, then I don't deserve to have the seat. If any position, if you can't win the people you serve, and there's a reason why each commissioner is its district, you have a district, it's because you represent that district. And I've spoken with a lot of people in our community, from Waldorf to La Plata to Cobb Island to Nanjemoy, and there are differences in our county. We are a microcosm of Maryland. We have a lot of differences in different areas of the county, not only ideologically, but geographically. And I think it's important for the people that I'm sent to La Plata to represent, that they get to choose that. And quite frankly, if anybody would be opposed to this bill, it would be me. My race was the closest. I think 200-300 votes. Everybody else was in the thousands. So again, this is the lane of the delegation and the senators. And I understand the challenges that it faces, and I respect my colleagues and their opinion. This is the democratic process, but I stand behind my decision to support this. And I believe the people in Charles County do as well. So thank you for the opportunity, and you all have a wonderful day, and thank you for what you do every day.
Okay, guys. And Matt, give me 1 second, only because I need to go ahead and put Brian on the spot real quick, since this was his bill. So Delegate Crosby, if you want to go ahead and lay out your rationale, and then we'll get to Matt, and then any questions. Go ahead, bud.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, CT, and I appreciate everybody coming here and bringing their concerns. I will be the first one to tell each one of these delegate or county commissioners, when I put the bill in, I certainly did not think it was going to get the amount of attention it did. I had conversations with delegates from your area, but I definitely did not think this was going to blow up on the mass scale that it did in terms of the heated debate. It's simple. I mean, I just put the bill in because I truly believe in my heart that this is what is fair and right, and people should have the ability to elect who represents them at any level of government, whether that's the federal government, the state government, the county commissioners or county councils, or school board. And somebody should go onto that level of government or that body and advocate for their people. I think that there has been a lot of misconception around it, but in the end, that's all it does. And this is about fairness. I've watched a couple commissioner hearings. To the point of the referendum is, I think there's a couple things here. The first is that it's made to seem like it doesn't apply to every county, and that is not true. Every county that has a county commission form of government, this does apply to. It's just the ones that aren't going to change is because they're already in this form. And Dorchester County, you can go back through history. They went through this process in the 80s. There was a Maryland Constitutional Convention in the 60s that resolved some of the other counties, and these are the 5 counties that remain on this system. So if we were going to do a referendum, which I opposed to, but the referendum would be statewide. It wouldn't be your county gets to decide this, because it is a statewide bill. And it does apply to every county commission form of government, just to be clear. So, I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions if the county commissioners have questions, but that's, I mean, in a nutshell, in my opinion, it's about fairness.
Thank you. Before we do
Can I
that,
ask a question?
wait, no, wait. Before we do, I want to let Matt Morgan, who's had his hand up for about 18 minutes, go ahead and say something, and then we'll get to the commissioners' questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank Ruben for his statement there. I mean, while the bill might not have anything addressing civil rights, I mean, obviously, I mean, that was the main talking point when the bill was introduced. It was the main talking point on the floor. And I appreciate, you know, his comments there that you don't want to level the charges of racism without evidence of racism. That's very divisive. So I want to thank him for that. Two, I do want to talk a little bit about the voter referendum and what happened in Dorchester County, because that was brought up when the bill was introduced. And we actually had the Calvert County attorney there do some legal research on that. So basically there was a lawsuit had to deal with a special election back in 1985. And apparently something went on there in Dorchester County, but nothing was decided. The county never admitted any guilt. There was never a judgment, and they changed their form of government. Now, I just find it unbelievable that we're using that as the standard and then waited 36 years later to do something. That doesn't even sound believable to me. You know, I introduced an amendment. We talked to the bill sponsor about a voter referendum locally. Absolutely, this can be done locally. There's not a state regulation. And to prove my point, Cecil County is still out of the bill. Cecil County still has this at-large districts voted across county-wide because they're a charter government county. And the bill didn't apply to them. So it has to deal with implied powers or express powers in your form of government. So if you can apply the law to them, yeah, you absolutely could do this through a referendum. And we tried to do that in the House. And unfortunately, that amendment that I proposed to do this was voted down. Now, I keep hearing this talking point over and over again, and Commissioner Collins expressed it again, which we really agree with. We might have some agreement on this bill when we're talking about one man, one vote. And I would just like to get people's opinion that are on the call, including the delegation members, because we don't have one man, one vote in our state legislature. We do in St. Mary's County, but not in Charles County. And I'm just wondering your opinion on single seat voting. That would be my first question. And second question is, what would your opinion be if, you know, we're region down here in St. Mary's, in Charles and Calvert, Southern Maryland. What about amending the bill over in the Senate that says if one county changes their election districts from current law, it applies to all three counties? I'd just like to get your opinion on those two questions. Single seat districting at the state level, and if amending the bill that if one county in Southern Maryland changes, it applies to all.
And man, I'll say this before we get going. We're not doing all that. We're not going to sit here and question each individual because we don't have that much more time. On the Jermaine, on this bill, I have no problem. The reason I invited everybody is because two things that you mentioned. Number one, it's still alive in the Senate. So you have an opportunity through your senators and others to get these amendments over to the Senate.
Well, that's what we're talking about is an amendment. We're talking.
We don't need the opinion of everybody here to do that. That's something you can do as an individual.
Well, I do have a philosophical disagreement with, we're going to apply this bill to the local levels, but we're not going to fix it on our own level. I don't think that's right.
And that's fine. We just don't need to take a vote on that because it would be pointless. Secondly, racism.
I think your opinion matters, Mr. Chair.
I said a vote, not an opinion. What I'm saying is I don't want to jump into that debate because the reason I wanted everybody here and I wanted you guys to voice your opinions and give the commissioners a chance to lay out their.
All right, well, can I have the discussion? Can I have the discussion on amending it? Because I just like some reassurance that, you know, the one difference between all three counties is that Charles County is a code home rule county. So they don't go to the General Assembly to wipe out their election districts. If they want to do that and make the change and go to at-large or a 3-2 district, they have the ability to do that on the fly, something that Calvert and St. Mary's doesn't. So what we're asking for, if the bill is going to be amended, if one county changes, it should apply to all 3 counties.
And to be clear, again, I don't know what that vote would do. The amendment's fine. You don't need a vote to do it. But I'll say this, and that's something we can pick up next week if we want to do that for the Senate. It's just a delegation. But
we're getting tight on we are getting tight on crossover. I'm just saying that the bill's already crossed. I mean, I know,
but remember it's in the Senate. We're not tight on getting the bill in the Senate. We still have time. We're not trying to cross over the amendment. The amendment will go to the Senate, right?
All right. Well, I'm interested in hearing their opinion, so I'll turn the floor back over to Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Hey, real quick, CT Chair.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just to respond to 2 things. First, Cecil County isn't in the bill because obviously Charter County is a different section of the code. That's why they didn't make it in the bill. They amended them in, and then they found out when it came to the floor on second reader that they couldn't push it forward because then it would have invalidated everything. So that's how Cecil County went out. So if Cecil County wants to change that, then Cecil County can change that at a later date, and I would support that change. And then the second thing, you brought up Dorchester County, and I think there's a little bit of a misconception here. The judge, Norman Ramsey, he ordered that 5 equal districts be created by representatives of then Dorchester County commissioners with only the residents of the individual districts voting for the representative instead of the previous system of an at-large voting throughout the county for all 5 commissioners. So he ordered that change. That was a directive by a judge here in Maryland in 84, I believe it was, or excuse me, July 8th, 1985. So that was an order from a judge.
Okay, thank you. Senator Ellis?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This discussion is amazing. Like I said, the bill came out from the House, it passed as it is, and it's in the Senate, and the second stop after the first reader is the committee I serve on, the Education, Health, Environmental Affairs Committee. And so that bill is coming up, I believe, Thursday of next week for bill hearing in the Education, Health, Environmental Affairs Committee. And so part of the process we have in the state of Maryland, I know a lot of folks have problems with the process, although folks always talk about the process. Well, the process constitutionally is a bill is introduced and we have public hearings for public input, testimonies. It's open up, contact the Education, Health, Environmental Affairs Committee, get on the list to testify, send written testimony in. That's the process for all laws submitted, all bills submitted in Maryland. And so it's going through the process that has guided us constitutionally for a very, very long time. And so I look forward to hearing from everyone. Like I said, I'm the member representing Southern Maryland that will be having a direct input on this bill in the next phase as it proceeds throughout the Senate and through the General Assembly. So just wanted to kind of bring that to everyone's attention. And most of you all have my phone number. You can text me or you can call me. It's easier if you text me. I can get the text and read it. Even if I'm on the Senate floor, I can't talk on the phone too well. So, you know, all of you have a good relationship with, you have my phone number, and I'll definitely work with my colleagues to really produce an excellent product for the folks of Southern Maryland and for Maryland. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Senator. Speaking with the legal, our counsel, Ruben, I'll get right to you. The reason that there was no point in taking a vote as a delegation, individual commissioners could go ahead and do their things in their letters, was because it isn't just a Southern Maryland issue. It affects Southern Maryland and many, but it is a statewide bill. So, but the other reason I wanted to speak on this briefly is because I wanted to make sure that, you know, there are, you know, especially when you don't live in Southern Maryland, there was a lot of banter about racism. There were a lot of tweets about racism and Jim Crow. And that the reason these things were being done were, you know, racially, the reason that the Republicans in Southern Maryland were fighting this this bill was because of racism. And I wanted to dispel that and say, because that's not fair. That's not why anybody was fighting it. And I don't believe they got a fair shake. So I wanted to make sure that that was clarified as well. Commissioner Collins, you had a question?
No, and very quickly, I just wanted to respond to, references to code home rule. That is an additional argument that Charles County made that distinguishes us from the other counties that are associated with this bill. As a code home rule government, we have the ability, to establish local law. But an extension of that, and one of the problems we had with the actual language in the bill is, as an alternative, we didn't have the authority to maintain the status quo. In other words, the way it's written, and we're a code home rule government that has the ability to establish our own laws. But the way the bill is authored, 655 is saying, well, guess what? Even though you have that ability, you don't have the authority, to maintain the status quo. So that was a challenge, for us. And it was, from my perspective, it was a total disrespect of Charles County, as a primary code home rule established government. It's like saying we don't care about the position of the people,
Well, to respond briefly to that, you also don't get to set what date you vote. You don't get to set how many voting days you have, how many early voting days you have. You don't get to set liquor laws either. You know why? Because those are statewide laws. This is a statewide bill. This is not a bill just for Charles County. Well,
but that's not what I said, CT. What I said was in terms of the alternatives.
But what I'm saying is,
I understand that. But
what I'm saying,
but we do have the authority as a code home rule government,
but not to do everything.
How we actually elect people.
So
I disagree with the
unless it's invalidated by state law. So again, but mind you, this is what our attorneys have set up here, because we talked about code home rule because we do differ slightly. But colleagues, what I was trying to do, and literally this is just a shot in the dark because I know there are so many issues, but I also wanted our senators to hear where their commissioners of all three counties stood. Because like I said, this is still alive in the Senate. It's important that you hear from these commissioners. And although it's passed through the House, and it was one of the speaker's priorities, wanting to make sure that you understand the uphill battles that your commissioners are facing as far as the acceptance of this bill. And although this is a statewide bill, it affects all three counties in Southern Maryland. So this is the main reason I had it. The senators, if you don't have any questions, commissioners, I appreciate your time. Hope you didn't feel it was a waste of time, but we're just trying to, I just wanted to make sure you guys had your voice, even so when it goes over to the Senate, they'll at least know where you stand, not just via letter, but also your, your opinions specifically. I know we're running late. I got to get over and I'm sure I'll be debating Matt on the floor again. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who's present. The bells are ringing. So thank you very much. And reach out if you have any other issues. God bless you guys. Take care.
Thank you all.
Meeting adjourned.